Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the DD Conclave on Union Budget 2022. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you all to the DD Conclave on Union Budget 2022. DD Conclave on Union Budget 2022 sponsored by Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority, Inform Investor, Empower Investor, Smart Investor, Bank of Baroda, We Live in the World, PaisaBazaar.com, Paisan Se Badkar, Indian Bank, your own bank, always with you. NLC India Limited, creating wealth for well-being. Canara Bank, together we can. Nali Chinnasamy Chetty, Panagal Park, Chennai. Repco Bank, grow with us. Nippon Paint, Asia's real #1 paint. Print media partner, Dinamalar. Venue partner, ITC Grand Chora. I warmly welcome you all to the second session, Budget for New India, towards Aatmanirbar Bharat, social sector and agricultural reforms. சுயசார்பு பாரதத்தை உருவாக்க சமூக வேளாண் துறைகளில் சீர்திருத்தங்கள் தொடர்பான அமர்வுக்கு வருகை தந்திருக்கும் அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என்று வரவேற்கின்றோம். Sri Subendu Ghosh will moderate the session. I welcome Sri Subendu Ghosh onto the stage.
Thank you very much, Hema. Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Vanakkam. This is session 2 of Budget for New India. DD Conclave towards Aatmanirbar Bharat, and our focus is going to be social sector and agriculture reforms in the region. Let me quickly warmly welcome our guests for joining us in the program. Dr. Nandini Azad, President, Working Women Forum, also India Cooperative Network for Women. A warm welcome, ma'am. If you can just put our hands together for the panel of guests who are joining us now. Next, we have with us Sri G. Vishwanathan, Chancellor, Vellore Institute of Technology. Warm welcome to you, sir. We are also joined by Mr. S. Sundararaman. You're a chartered accountant, also member of Society of Auditors, academic council member of many prestigious colleges in and around Chennai. Warm welcome to you, sir. And finally, we have with us Sri Malay Kumar Poddar, CMD, Agriculture Insurance Company of India Limited. So the focus of our conversation is social sector. The vision of Aatmanirbar Bharat cannot be complete till every section of society, every individual is empowered. Do everyone in our country, however remote a region they live in, have access to clean drinking water? How long will it take for every family to have a roof over their heads? Are we able to provide the best technology, best resources available to our farmers, to our students, to our entrepreneurs? These are questions that must concern all of us. And we'll try and see how does the budget articulate these very, very critical areas. So to begin with, to each of my panel members, I'll keep the floor open. About 2 minutes. How do you see the budget articulates the vision of Aatmanirbar Bharat in your respective areas of expertise? Ma'am, if I can begin with you.
Thank you very much. My own sector that I would like to focus on is on gender and women. And second, of course, cooperatives.
Ma'am, we'll have to have your mic with you, please. Yeah.
I'd first like to thank the Doordarshan for this very interesting debate, particularly digitalizing to the remotest corners this sort of discussion, demystifying the budget, as with the finance minister talked about. Now, in terms of my sector, I'm going to talk about the women, because this is, to use a cliche, more than half or less than half of the population, as well as the cooperatives, which is a new sector that has been initiated by the Honorable Prime Minister, as well as our own minister, the Honorable Amit Shah ji, as well as the 900 crore allocation for the first time ever in the budget. So therefore, I think that these are, the cooperative is very different from the corporate sector. Here, dividends go to each one of the members. It's very different from the corporate where there is a big divide. So I think this is a big step to make the cooperative on a level playing field with the cooperatives. The corporates. The second issue is on women. As I told the Honorable Finance Minister, in an ordinary circumstance when there is no war and no pandemic, this would be a brilliant budget for women. And this would be both gender specific as well as gender mainstreamed. That is creating a demand by infrastructure, 7.5 lakh crores, etc., where women will then move slowly from the formal. I myself, we have about 600,000 very poor women in the 4 states of South India, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. And we have found that given sums of money, Hindi mein kehte hain, Keechad mein kamal. So you give them opportunities, and here are these women who started with 200 rupees and their children are engineers and doctors. Right. And they are employing other women. So therefore, the possibility of what the budget has envisaged would have been very perfect if not for the 2 obstacles, or the pandemic and the whole nuance of whether the war is going to affect us.
Right. Mr. Vishwanathan, sir, if I can come to you. In terms of education, bringing in innovation in education, bringing in the power of digital in education has been a priority of the government, and we see that reflection in the budget as well. Your perspective, sir, what does the budget carry for the education sector, for the young minds of the country?
Thank you. Any welfare government, welfare state, has to take care of the social sector, especially education and health. And no doubt, the present budget talks about digital universities, digital way of learning. But our country, being what it is, we must spend enough money on availability of seats, both for students studying in higher education particularly, because we are lagging behind in higher education. Our gross enrollment ratio is only 27%. Our Honorable Prime Minister wants to take it to 50%. It means that we will have to take care of all the youngsters, especially belonging to the poor and the middle class. Out of 14 crore children eligible for higher education, only about 3.5 crores are studying in the 1,000 universities and 54,000 colleges. So it means that we'll have to take care of educational facilities. Take, for example, now the Ukraine war has opened our eyes. The Prime Minister also mentioned yesterday that it is unfortunate that our youngsters and students are going to small countries and spending money there. He has requested the private sector to come forward and start more medical colleges, because there's the priority of the country, because availability, affordability and quality, these are the 3 issues. And I would very much like the budget. Of course, it talks about the digital thing. I want more seats to be offered to our students, especially in medicine. We have 16 lakhs of students, aspirants, but available seats are only about 80 or 85,000. So this is my concern, and I would like to talk to you later.
Sure. Mr. Sitharaman, if I can come to you. In your reading of the budget, the highlights that you underlined in our conversations, I see your interest also in areas of innovation, in the manner in which drone technology is being adapted in a wide-scale manner in different areas. Your thoughts first on the manner in which Aatmanirbar Bharat is reflected in the budget program.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Doordarshan, for the opportunity. Generally, my overview on the budget, gone are the days where people used to wait for the month of February to hear the budget, and also the government used to wait for the budget to make all key policy announcements and decisions. Today, the government is so proactive that even the Aatmanirbar package announced during the COVID is almost 60 to 70% size of the total budget itself, almost 20 lakh crore. So the government does not, need not have to wait till the budget. When and wherever the announcements and policy schemes are required to be announced, they are very proactive. They come back and then just make a press release and then they do an announcement. In fact, I would recall last year, a corporate tax rate changes for new manufacturing companies at the incentive rate of 12.5%. It's not something, a tax rate is something which Normally, an announcement will come in the form of a budgetary announcement. In a press release by announcing a scheme, the corporate tax rate was announced. So we find that probably that's the reason that people find less importance to the budget, because much of the things are actually taking place every month. And Madam also in her speech was referring that Nani Palkiwala's speech is something everybody will adore to. But because whole year's activity would come as a single announcement in huge documents, and nowadays key changes and tracking are taking place every month, and everything is therefore, budget therefore becomes more an annual performance statement plus macro goals alone. That's clearly been evident in this particular the budget, keeping in view the long-term goals, where and huge allocation towards, Madam was referring also on the infrastructure, which is a need of the hour. Because if you see the economic survey which was released, if you see 10 graphs which has been put on what are all the signals which is being showing that the economy is under recovery, the number of the e-way-bills which has been generated pre-COVID and post, the GST collections more particularly, we are able to see a V-shaped recovery.
Sure.
So in that particular path, the next important step the government is required to pingin is to maintain that particular growth and also to have that create the sustainability. So that is an important the reasoning which is also given in the economic survey, that it's time that effort should be made to create that sustainability from the recovery path, and government should therefore concentrate on infrastructure allocations, which will create an vicious circle. When you spend money, as the Madam also was referring to, that multiplier effect, buy cement, people will be, laborers will be engaged. So the basic principle of one man's expenditure is another man's income, and that income which grows on creates a multiplier effect, which is what's being targeted. So I find that the budget be more relevant, though despite it is very precise on the announcement and need of the hour, what has been required is being correctly being addressed to.
Right. Mr. Poddar, I'll come to you. Agriculture, we know, is an absolutely crucial sector in a country like ours, and it is also interesting the manner in which the sector, agriculture, could sustain itself during the challenge of the pandemic, one of the only sectors that could perhaps maintain a positive growth. Mr. Poddar, I understand that you're from the insurance background. From your perspective, the manner in which this strength of agriculture that we've seen in this years of the pandemic has been further bolstered by the government in the budget that is given, the manner in which crop insurance, other schemes have empowered farmers going forward.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. There is a paradigm shift in the narratives of this budget. If you look at particularly the agriculture sector, paradigm shift in the sense that there is a understanding developing that India must go back to its own original root, finding out how the agricultural practices were there earlier days, how to what extent it is the use of chemical fertilizers has distorted in the name of agricultural productivity. I think those corrections are being taken now in a very, very sensible manner, and focus is now going to the natural farming.
I think that's a valuable point, because not only is it, I think, empowering the farming community, it's also playing a dual role. It's also protecting the environment. I think you refer to the manner in which River Ganga cleaning is aligned with the goals of natural farming. Yes.
Yeah, decades of this fertilizer subsidy also little bit distorted the agricultural practices. Farmers, they, in the euphoria of going for more production, more productivity, they used more of this, the nitrogen fertilizers, urea and all. So that has damaged the soil structures and all. So those are being looked into. And there are a plethora of projects which are already going on. Some of the projects have been now consolidated. And focus is now going that how we can go back towards this natural farming, NF.
Right.
In the name of natural farming, this organic farming, using, say, cow dung, cow urine, or whatever, this farmyard manures and all those things. A lot of focus is being given. And there is a particular project which has been taken up, which is called Namami Gange.
Right.
Entire this Ganges, the catchment areas, starting from Uttarakhand up to Bengal, covering this UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, 5 kilometers across on both the sides of Ganga. Wherever the pockets are available, agriculture pockets are available, Those some 125,000 hectares are being mapped actually for this purpose, where this particular natural farming will be encouraged. And the concerned district collectors, they have been sensitized. There is a national executive committee formed, and our honorable prime ministers will be sitting on that from time to time to see that how the progress is taking. So it's an absolutely paradigm shift that has taken, and at the same time, not only that it is a lip service, for that the farmers have to be taught, they have to be trained. A special course at the post-graduation level has started for this organic farming. An university has come up in Gujarat, Gujarat Organic Agriculture Farming.
Right.
So those are the things were not there earlier. So the focus is coming to this. As you said, this will also address the ESG part of it. Environment, social, and these things. When we are giving when Prime Minister is giving a commitment that by 2070, India probably will be going for a zero emission country. I think agriculture is one particular area, not only in India, anywhere in the world, it actually contributing to the global warming more than any other industry.
Right.
So, yes.
Right there. On that note, first, thank you, of course, for the initial remarks that you've all shared. And to all the August audience members who are sitting here, let me also just welcome remarks, observations, questions that you may have. We're talking about Aatmanirbar Bharat, focusing on the social sector, agriculture, education, health, and sectors that come under the larger umbrella of social sector. At any point in time, you can please ask for the mic and be a part of this conversation here. You can put your questions also to the panelists. Last 10-15 minutes, of course, I will turn to you more extensively to get questions. Moving forward, Mr. Vishwanathan, I'd like to come to you, sir. Talking about education, and you head an institution. We've seen the education sector, learning, for students, for teachers, the years of the pandemic, the last 2 years, were a huge setback. There are a lot of ways in which they tried to come back. We saw when physical classes were not possible anymore, online classes came up as an alternative. Then in the recent days, we've seen online classes almost becoming mainstream. The budget refers to concepts of digital universities. We're not talking about online classes, we're talking about an entire university, an entire academic institution online. Help us understand how this vision is going to be realized on the ground. What will be the characteristics? Is online learning now the way forward, whether or not we're facing the challenge of the pandemic? What are your thoughts on that, sir? Could you take the mic, sir, if you could, please? Thank you.
Due to the COVID-19, we had to fall upon the online education because we don't want the students to lose a year or two. We were able to do something because we had to do, but I always feel that the in-person class is far superior to the online classes. Even you conduct exam online, etc. But we had no other go. But now all the institutions have been reopened. In fact, VIC is reopened today itself. And most of the government institutions have already opened. We are now going to follow both. It will be both in-person class, and sometimes it will be for first years, it's going to be online. This is how we are trying to fulfill the obligation. I hope in the future it will not happen. I feel that we must do justice to the quality of education. There, I think all of us will have to work hard. Both in education is in the concurrent list. Both the center and the state are responsible for this. And I hope with the cooperation of the private sector, state government and the central government, we should come up in education. That always my ambition is that India should be one of the destinations for higher education. And we are trying to move that side, but still we have not yet succeeded. we must able to attract students from many countries to India. That's my aim and objective.
But
now,
sir, do you
yes,
think online platform does transform the manner in which accessibility becomes possible for students? Students from remote areas can perhaps attend a class by a renowned teacher, say in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, or elsewhere. So do you think those advantages that an online platform offers, we are trying to capitalize on them now, not just as an alternative to physical classes, but as a mainstream, as a strategy to make sure that the best education, the best, we're talking about skill training as well. So the best of that reaches every student in a more democratic manner across the country.
no, if you are assured of electricity,
Yes.
internet connectivity, etc., what you say is right. But it is not true of all the places.
Okay.
For example, when we closed the institution last year in March, the students from Ethiopia, we have more than 100 students studying from Ethiopia, they refused to go. When we asked them, they gave me two reasons. One is that civil war is going on in that country. Other thing is the facilities are not available. In the rural areas especially, they may not get all the facilities to attend the classes. So we retain them in the hostel itself. That problem is there even within the country at the remote areas. That will take some time to solve this. But that should not deter us from going ahead.
Right.
We should go ahead and help the students.
Right. And ahead in the conversation, sir, we'll also try to find out is one class, one television channel a solution to the issue that you're raising? Dr. Nandini Azad, ma'am, if I can come to you. I don't want to succumb to a cliche, but often when we talk about women in villages, the concept of getting drinking water or usable water, the image that we often see is women of the family traveling long distances to sort of get water for the entire family, and that becomes an important part of the chore. In this context, if I were to talk about a program like Har Ghar Jal Yojana, some 3 crore 80 lakh households, the vision document of the budget says, will have access to drinking water, tap water in their households. You work for women's empowerment. I want to know how transformative is this one particular program going to be for the women in the country, particularly in the hinterland?
No, I can't, just stick to one infrastructure program.
Sure. But this is particularly transformative, ma'am. Drinking water in a household has been...
No, gas, fuel,
certainly.
firewood.
Yes.
As I said before, you go to Uttarakhand, to many of the mountainous areas, the picture that comes to me, because I've been...
Yes.
The issue is, it is not only Har Jal Wala hai. You have to look at it in a holistic manner. The woman has 4 roles. It's the 4-armed Shakti, as I say. She's got a reproductive role, she's got a home manager role, she's got a productive role as a worker, as well as a community manager, or a worker in the panchayat, etc. So given that, what does this budget do for her on a holistic basis? You've got specific schemes in the Ministry of Women and Child. There's been a 3% increase. Right. You've got the Poshan Yojana, the Anganwadi, also the protecting the rights of women and children, because gender violence in rural areas is a very serious thing. So we've got to look at the 4-armed Shakti, as I say. Now, what you have said, we have to look at the affordable housing. We have to look at the electricity. We have to look at the gas connections, because, as I say, when I picturize a woman, not maybe in Tamil Nadu that often, except in the aspirational districts, I look at Uttarakhand. I look at the mountainous areas, where a woman is walking, as I said to the Honorable Finance Minister, with a milk can on one side, a burden of the firewood at the back, and carrying water. So therefore, most of the women's time and tasks are spent in managing and maintaining the household of the poor households. How then is this budget going to empower women to be more productive? Because I believe, I've told the Niti Aayog several times, you're talking about immunity during the pandemic. You can't give a 300 rupees to get a wage and she's going to stand in your vaccination line? No. So therefore, we cannot look at a woman as a, a specific, gender-specific input. You've got to look at her in terms of all the infrastructure, what the build-up is going to be, financial inclusion, how the SHG movement is going to empower her, how the infrastructure movement is going to help her with the 100-day wages, with all the 7 engines. You've got to look at her, that her productive role should be enhanced. There's food on the table, that then her immunity is built. I've told the Niti Aayog, they've taken me very seriously. They're asking us to do a research in the 10 aspirational districts of South India, because they are saying livelihood is connected to water, to electricity, to then, affordable housing and gas connection.
Sure, the point absolutely taken about looking at the whole issue about women's empowerment in a holistic manner.
But this is the first time.
Certainly.
This is the first time that, as we are theoretical gender specialists also. So, like you have a theory of urban infrastructure, etc. Gender, you've got gender-specific budgets. You're targeting the ministry. You've got gender mainstreaming.
Right.
You're looking at mainstream. So, therefore, if the war is not looming, if the pandemic was not there, it would be a perfect gender budget.
Right. I want to add one more point. In fact, you mentioned about the various roles that women play in the society, the social role. You mentioned self-help groups also. Anganwadis have also been empowered, and we've learnt about Saksham Anganwadis, more skill training.
Portion
Abhiyan, of course.
So important to build immunity.
How significant, how transformative would that be in sort of the cascading effect when you empower the women worker, the women self-help group worker? How does that empowerment then cascade down to the society where she's operating and working?
See, my own work with the Working Women's Forum and the Indian Cooperative Network for Women, we are the founders of this SHG movement. Our founder was the person who pioneered the SHG movement in 1981. So we know what it is. We don't call it an SHG, but a credit group. The credit group becomes so powerful. Not only is it saving, not only it's loaning, it's creating empowerment. It talks to prime ministers. They give petitions. They have become empowered. It's an all-round vehicle where a poor woman doesn't want to take risk. In this group, she becomes empowered. She learns leadership. She learns capacity. Therefore, financially empowered, economically empowered, she can talk to the panchayat. She's becoming a member of the panchayat. When I was in government in 1987, we did the National Perspective Plan. We were the architects of the 33% reservation for women in panchayats. So a self-help group is not an individual group of just giving money, taking money, bettered money lenders. No. We are people who are units at the privatized units at the local level who are joining the economic mainstream. Many of them are moving towards the formal sector. Many of them are panchayats, MLAs, MPs, because political empowerment is the last thing that we want. This is what we want for women. So therefore, the small self-help group, which our founder started in 1981, has become a byword everywhere. We have 600,000 women. You can imagine the power. When there's no road, when there's no water, when there's no teacher in the school, these women are generating. So let's not think of it as only economic entities. They are also self-care units today.
Certainly.
You need nurses and hospitals. These don't.
When we talk about social sector, of course,
that's
welfare
right. You have to build that. You can't expect the government to do everything.
It's not just economy. Fair enough. My point taken. Sundaraman, if I can come to you, let's take it a little forward. And the manner in which the idea of innovation is being used in budget as a means to take welfare measures to different stakeholders of society. In fact, if I can inform our audience members, and if you're familiar with it, on Doordarshan, DD News, DD India, we had this special program for startup champions, wherein we brought stories of successful startups who've been recognized by the government, and many of those startups are doing transformative work in social sector, in health sector. They're really bringing a lot of solutions to farmers in the country. Something as crucial as manual scavenging, the ways to end it, they are making those transformations possible. Sundaraman, with your interest in innovation and technology, how well is the budget, how well is the government being able to empower these innovators, these startups, so that they can actually make a difference in the society? From that perspective, how is your reading of the budget and the working of the government?
Yeah, so the government's focus on incentivizing the startup is, we can feel that in the last 3 years itself on a very focused manner. And more particularly on this particular, the budget, we are able to find some allocation towards promoting technologies, more particularly into even agricultural, for example, promotion of the drone technologies. Because fundamentally we feel that drones are something which are very useful only for militaries and armies, etc. So gone are the days where we are able to promote a startup company technology, which is almost 200 companies registered in the startup technology under the drone manufacturing itself. And government also is ready to rightly announce something called as the PLI, the Production Linked Incentive Schemes, the right point of time for facilitating manufacture of the Aatmanirbar drones, so that it can be widely used for transportation of the goods as well, so that it reaches the people from farmers end to the other end, and also pesticiding and air droning, etc., which encourages the other ways which Sir was also talking about.
Right.
And also on the other side, facilitating the business, the risk taking. For a startup, there are two things which comes to their mind when they wanted to one is on the risk taking ability. Yeah. I start, what in case I fail? So that was there always in the mind, and I find that the introduction of the IBC, what they call the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code, is probably to an extent, because insolvency laws generally, any person views it from a negative perspective. It is to be noted that Henry Ford has become insolvent 4 times before the 5th time become successful. So there should be a regulatory framework in the government which backs the entrepreneur, risk-taking ability to be incentivized. Whenever he fails, we need to know that it is not a financial failure, rather not a business failure, it could just be a financial failure. So therefore, you need a very strong regulatory framework in the country which backs the entrepreneur. When he takes risk and he fails, you need to go and then give him one more opportunity of coming back and then re-engineering the business. Today, the resolution process, etc., which works in that particular segment, should also be taken into account. And secondly, on the taxation and other the benefits, which of course are being very widely being introduced, even in the budget, the startups which are specializing in the innovative segments, identified some 10 sectors. The project has to be cleared by the DPIIT, the Department of Promotion of Industries and Trade. Once they clear the project, you are being given a tax exemption completely. And also, in this particular budget, they've extended that particular scheme for another year till 2023. Yeah. And lastly, on the funding part, for many the entrepreneurs who have an innovation, they are lacking a seed funding. Because today, if I go to a bank, they generally insist for margin money. If I take a project for 10 crores, they say that no, we fund 75%, and then rest of the 25% should come from you. So therefore, what they lack is on the seed initial funding, which that has also been, there's a separate scheme which they have launched called as the Startup Seed Funding Scheme, which I find, apart from many these schemes, this is being something very brilliant, and on a very particular risk evaluated basis, these seed funding has also been given to the startups who has a good innovation and then they wanted to have a kickstart. So you just have an innovation, a brilliant idea, and then you find that there's a complete success of that particular business model where the seed funding is being given by this particular authority, and the rest of the funds will be able to mobilize from the bank, and that is also being backed up with a lot of incubation cells, which probably Vishwanathan sir would also be able to back up. Many of the educational institutions, they themselves have an entrepreneurial cell and then incubation cells. And I find recently the introduction to the startup is happening at the particular college education itself. Many of the startup companies, even during the last year of education, they form a company and they have been given introduction, and go green signal is being provided at that particular stage.
If we can
itself.
take a comment from Vishwanathan sir on this particular aspect. I mean, the innovators cannot come from outside. I mean, they do, but our educational institutions should also be a fertile ground for these innovators to come up. In that sense, how is the academia really reorienting itself to give scope to such innovators to thrive? He mentioned about, Asanam just mentioned about the support system that an innovator requires to turn an idea into a budding enterprise. How are education institutions doing that now? And what more do you think must be done? Sir, the mic.
Point mentioned by your friend. we have started a technology business incubator long back in VIT. Now, I always want them, at least some of them, to become entrepreneurs. But generally, the parents in Tamil Nadu, maybe in other states also, they would like their son to go and earn a safe salary, monthly salary. Because to become an entrepreneur, you may earn well or sometimes you may lose. That many of them don't like. But I try to persuade them. We give them courses also when they are in third year, final year on entrepreneurship. And I tell them that throughout life you can't be an employee, you should become an employer. And some of them are able to do it. The government also helps us. The union government helps us in funding, giving loan. These things we are able to. So far, about 40 of them have gone out and started their own. It's a good thing that the center takes interest in this and we get funding also. I hope many of the institutions should start this, which will be beneficial to the youngsters, which will be good for the country also, because ultimately, as the Prime Minister says, we should make in India. Because now we are importing many things. And it is time now that one by one we stop the imports and manufacture ourselves. That's the ultimate aim. That's the self-reliance. Right. Which the Prime Minister and the Government of India talks.
That's true. I think startups in that sense represent the idea of Aatmanirbar, self-reliance like nobody else. Mr. Poddar, I'll come to you. In the conversation on innovation, on startups, we just heard the mention of drones as well, and the innovative ways in which drones are used. In fact, we all know a few days ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, pushed for more innovative use of drones. Traditionally, we see drones being used in photography, in defense needs, but extensive use in agriculture, in spraying of insecticides, in mapping of the land area, which are extremely important and core functions that farmers have to take care of. And when something like a drone is able to do it in a more efficient manner, we can imagine how transformative it must be for the entire sector. From you, Mr. Poddar, we'd like to learn about these innovations that as they're coming in, innovation in technology, how transformative, what potential do they carry, and where do we go from here with drones being used to spray insecticides in fields?
Yeah, it's a very, very relevant questions. As you know, with this government, there is always a talk and insistence on using technology as much as possible. Digitalization of entire economic activities, whether it is agriculture, the livestock, any other things and all. So naturally, ultimately, the Director General of Civil Aviation, they have come with a very, very comprehensive, particularly classified drone policy in September 2021. And after that, the Ministry of Agriculture, they have further fine-tuned it to the requirement of agriculture and came out with a drone policy for how to be used in agriculture. So there actually this entire sky where this drone is being used, that is segregated into green, yellow and red zones and all. And the micro drones, nano drones, this classification of the instruments also have been done, and entire modalities have been created. And with this kind of motive, or say way forward-looking thinking, government has come up for the agriculture sector. There is one thing called Kisan Sarathi. Kisan Sarathi will be not only using the drone-based data, and all the drone keeps on collecting huge numbers of data. So how the data will be used for micromanaging agriculture at a Gram Panchayat, at a village level even. So for that, this Kisan Sarathi, this program has been developed. So in that program, this artificial intelligence, then when you have developed a huge amount of data repository, then machine learnings, all those things are going to come in. And as our good friend was mentioning, many startups will be coming, probably for this nano drones or micro drones, which for which this licensing is much easier. People will be using that. Manufacturing will not be a very big thing. Probably India can manufacture. Earlier it was mostly imported from China, and many startups are coming. Many IIT graduates, they are into it. We are in touch with many of these things. In crop insurance also we have started using.
Right.
Yeah. So the drones, you can develop algorithm, you can develop sensors, how drone will be utilized for mapping of various, crops areas. And when you just merge with the soil data, soil moisture data, probably you can give an advisory, you can develop a as a micro level agricultural policy that this particular farmer with this kind of land, they should not be growing this crop, rather they should be going for this crop. So these kind of things are coming. And yesterday actually we have launched a program, crop insurance program for cardamom insurer. So our Honorable Minister for Commerce and Industries, Mr. Piyush Goyal was there. I was also with him. So he was talking about this spices board. Spices board, you won't believe that they have gone to clouds actually to, and they're collecting data, analyzing data, they are understanding the demand of spices.
So you're saying that
it's an export-oriented.
technology
Yeah.
interventions
Yes.
are making a difference in the manner in which
Exactly.
farming is done, and is making a difference in the
Yeah.
in the earning, if we put it simply, in the lives of the farmers. Vishwanath, yeah, right. You want to complete a point?
Yeah, one interesting. Let me
Sure.
tell you. During this pandemic, of course, we all know that particularly one sector which has shown some green shoot is that agriculture sector.
That's correct. That's
In
correct. And
2021,
imparting that with technology as crucial as drones can be transformative. Vishwanathan sir, if I can come to you. We're talking here about drone manufacturing, not just drone technology being used extensively, but it's manufacturing being used, being done in India extensively. We're trying to incentivize startups who are going to be using drones in innovative means, as we are just discussing in agriculture, for instance. How are you empowering your students towards these particular
In fact,
opportunities?
I wanted to supplement something on
Please.
agriculture. We also run a
Yes.
BSc honors course in agriculture. Of course, I take personal interest in agriculture, having come from an agricultural family. At present, it is not an attractive profession. I want to change that. Agriculture also should become attractive so that even those educated people would like to come and join agricultural activities. That's what ultimately I want. Our productivity is much lesser than compared to many countries. That we will have to change. Take for example, the arable land, cultivable land, we have more land than China, but they produce almost twice in paddy as well as in wheat. That we must study, and how we must be able to also compete. The one country which the maximum science and technology used in agriculture is Israel. In fact, we are trying to get them here so that we'll learn from them. And I want to make it the whole district as a model so that it can be replicated in other districts of the country. We are not using much science and technology in agriculture. That is a must. And I would very much like the union government and the state government take interest in this. Of course, studying agriculture, I find now more girls are coming forward to study agriculture. In fact, in VIT, we have more girls than boys. And availability of agricultural seats is very difficult. In fact, many of them, they come and go away because there are no enough seats in agricultural institutes. These are the things we want to solve, and ultimately, I want even the educated people who would like to come and settle down in agricultural farms.
And
That
perhaps
should be
the opportunities that are coming up in terms of drones and other technologies is going to make it more attractive for new generation of farmers, of students to perhaps be attracted to this field. Dr. Azad, if I can come to you, ma'am. Yes, please. Ma'am, your mic, please, if you could. Use the mic, ma'am, if you could. The mic, please.
During the pandemic, there was a big issue of, because we are in the business of loaning, these are barefoot bankers.
Yes.
So they're working in nearly 6,000 villages and slums from our institution. So we found that digital financial literacy was very important for very poor women who just use the mobile. Now they can use apps, they know the RuPay, they know the Google Pay, they are paying out of that. Now, this is going to revolutionize, because they can use it for other things also. These are illiterate women. So this is one issue I'd like to raise. The second thing on the issue of cooperatives, it is a very revolutionary thing that we have now a Ministry of Cooperatives. We have 900 crores only, but they have huge budgets for digitalization of cooperatives. Now that is very important for transparency, for accountability. There's been a big issue. The Honorable Minister raised the issue in terms of, regulation of giving licenses to banks for cooperatives. So there are those issues. But I think some of the things that the union budget has done is the reduction of the minimum alternate tax on co-op societies from 18.5 to 15, also reduction of surcharge on co-op from 12 to 7%. These things are making us more viable, particularly the ones between 1 to 10 crores. Or, cooperatives like us and women who are members will have more opportunities. Also, an umbrella scheme where the Honorable Cooperative Minister has envisioned that every village will have a primary co-op by 24. Now, this is completely a dynamic, visionary sort of scheme where cooperatives are being taken to the grassroots so that, these become vehicles of transformation and change.
Right. Once again, let me just quickly remind all our audience members present here, should you have an observation, point that you'd like to raise, question to the panel, if you could please, so we have one question that we have coming from here. Yeah. If you can just have the mic passed to gentleman here.
Thank you and very good evening, one and all. I have a question to Mr. Malay Kumar Buttar. Sir, this Agricultural Insurance Company of India, last 10 years I've been thinking of this after reaching out to you because I work with small holding farmers. I come from an MSME background representing Andhra Chamber of Commerce. So we have members who are small holding farmers and FPOs. Many people, when we reach out to villages and work with small holding farmers, they don't know there is something called insurance for their agricultural paddy field work. So I request even DD to actually take this organization
Right.
there for more than, I think, couple of decades, I don't know. But many small holding farmers do not know. So what kind of initiative that you take, first of all, to make your presence felt by the small holding farmers?
Yeah, this crop insurance is nothing new. It has been running from 1985 on a pan-India basis, and you are absolutely on dot that enough awareness has not been created. The reason is that it's a unit area approach scheme, basically, which has been running. Of course, the latest Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is basically a blending of an index insurance with an indemnity insurance. Index insurance works on an area basis, let us say a gram panchayat or a block. So all the insured farmers, they are treated, their fortune is treated as uniform. Okay, the premium rate, what they have to be paid, they have to be paying is similar, irrespective of their own individual experience of the field, historical experience. And in the current year also, when the crop is lost or no loss, all the farmers belonging to a particular block or gram panchayat are treated uniformly. That's a huge pain point which we have not been able to address. So that this gives rise to the grievances, and it is not that farmers, they do not know. Probably they would like to say that this kind of insurance I don't want to know, kind of. But at the same time, this with the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana now, I think awareness is going on. In fact, on 26th, day before yesterday, there is a all India based, there is a campaign we have started, which is called Meri Policy Mere Haath. So we are going down to the district level, sub-district level, even panchayat level, involving this rural insurance, panchayat Raj departments and all. So creating such a huge level of awareness, I believe that it should have been done on a pulse polio campaign that took place, or maybe AIDS campaign. So, but that is a different kind of social issues than crop insurance. Crop insurance, by insurance you say that farmers is a very, very low net worth individuals. Still, he has to pay some money. For a farmer, for a 1 hectare of land, on an average, the sum insured value is around 40,000, 50,000 rupees. He has to pay at least 700, 800 rupees of insurance premium. That pains when he knows that it is not my field that if I lose a crop that I'll be indemnified. My fate goes along with other 100 or 500 farmers. So, but PMFBI takes care into this localized calamities like inundation, maybe landslide, which is not very, very this thing, but we have started paying claims on those. So your question is very, very important.
Absolutely, I think it's a vital point for also dissemination of information as far as crop insurance is concerned. So you have a question? Very briefly, please, because we're just out of time. Yeah, please. Sure.
Mr. Podar, as you said, the crop insurance is being done on a block-wise basis. When
even Gram Panchayat also in some places, for the major crops, yes.
So when you are stressing on organic farming also now, there's going to be a lot more crop diversity and a lot more reasons for crop failure rather than what we used already. So how is it going to affect Fasal Bima? How is this organic farming push going to affect Fasal Bima?
I think organic farming brings in the entire ecosystem into the place. Organic farming is what? It is a natural farming. And farming is nothing but it is done under the open sky. It is straightway connected to the nature, to the environment, to the agroclimatic situation. When you talk about this organic farming, I think it goes very well with the insurance proposition, but it will take some time. Insurance is a long-term matter. It takes into account the past loss histories.
Okay.
Organic farming, just if it is picking up right now, it's not that it has started picking up for quite some time. But when you go to a pan-India basis or a large scale, probably it will take some time actually.
Right. But I'm glad that although we had limited time, but we could touch upon this very important theme of crop insurance as well. As we move towards, we've almost come to the close of this session. I'll quickly thank our panelists who joined us in the program. Mr. Podar, of course, thank you very much for joining us. Ms. Sundaraman, thank you for your insights. Vishwanathan sir, thank you very much for your insights and all the best wishes to your students who have a visionary leader in you. And Dr. Nandini Azad, thank you for so passionately speaking about the issues that you believe in. And thank you very much to all the members of the audience who participated in this particular session, Budget for New India towards Aatmanirbar Bharat. Of course, Conclave, DD Conclave will continue as we cover different themes related to the budget. Next, the focus is going to be the manner in which digital India is getting empowered. Thanks very much for participating in this session. I'll turn to my colleague, Hima now.
Thank you. I thank all the panelists who participated in this session. Now it's time for felicitation. I would like to call Shri Mayank Agarwal, Director General, Doordarshan, to felicitate the panelists. Now, felicitation to Dr. Nandini Azad, President, Working Women's Forum, India Cooperative Network for Women.
Shall we put our hands together for the panel of guests who are getting felicitated now? Engaging conversation, a lot of interesting insights that I hope we will all take home and ponder over in the program ahead.
Felicitation to Sri G. Viswanathan, Chancellor, VIT. Felicitation to Sri Sundar Raman, Auditor. Felicitation to Sri Malay Kumar Pada, CM, Agriculture Insurance Company of India. Felicitation to Moderator, Sri Shubhendu Ghosh. Felicitation to Moderator, Sri Shubhendu Ghosh. Thank you all for attending the second session, Budget for New India towards Aatmanirbar Bharat, Social Sector and Agricultural Reforms. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority, Inform Investor, Empowered Investor, Smart Investor, Bank of Baroda, We Live in the World, PaisaBazaar.com, Paisa Se Badgar, Indian Bank, your own bank, always with you, NLC India Limited, Creating Wealth for Well-being, Canara Bank, Together We Can, Nali Chinnasamy Chetty, Panagal Park, Chennai, Repco Bank, Grow With Us, Nippon Paint, Asia's real #1 paint, print media partner, Dinamalar. It's time for a break, requesting all dignitaries to assemble for the third session, Budget for Digital First India, for inclusive digital ecosystem after 5 minutes. Thank you.